Hi, GV. So, GV's in Nanaimo. I'm in Calgary. Welcome, everyone. This is another one of No Bullshit Talks. So, today, GV suggested we talk about this subject, which is quite interesting. And I think in this day and age, when we have so many choices, even to choose what God we want to worship. So, not really a choice because there's a deep belief system, but however, we think we have a choice there. So since GV brought it up, and I love the topic also, so we thought we would talk about it. Where is God? Is it inside or is it outside? And what does that mean if it's outside? And what does it mean if it's inside? What are our actions, behavior patterns? So this is our talk today. So please stay put and stay there, and we will bring some good insights and good entertainment. It always is. Okay, GV, on to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Ruby. And thanks for obviously, you know that this topic is very close to my heart because I play this tug of war within myself. And so it's a very important topic. And this is going to be funny. I want to show you my teacup. I don't know if you
Oh,
read this. I'll
okay.
actually read it because it's a very
Yeah,
interesting.
because I just took off my glasses, so better
Oh,
read it.
so it says serenity, and it says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things that I can, and wisdom to know the difference. And it's fascinating because of the topic we're going to talk about, because even that quote gives the perception that God is external and is going to grant me these things, is going to grant me serenity and courage and wisdom, but it gives the depiction that it's external to us, right? So,
Yes, yes,
yeah, I wanted to talk about today around what is it? Like, is God external to us? Is God inside of me? Am I the source? And I also want to say something important. I know people say all the time, God is within me, I am the source. But I want to really go into the depth of that. Is that what we really believe? Because I know that my mouth moves in that way. I say, that the source is within me, and I can create and I can manifest and I can do all these things. But when it gets down to the deep rooted issue or situation, I still convert back to it's something external to me.
yes. I think that's because that's how we've been praying and managing for so long. So it's quite interesting that how is humanity trained? And it's very important the word trained or taught to
Mhm.
relate to God, because this is basically a training given to us very early by ancestors and their ancestors. And then, of course, we have philosophies and we have other systems coming in where this different systems of relating to God. So we get different choices how to relate, but who we are relating to, what that God is seldom. We seldom change that. So if you're coming like us from India or Eastern cultures, not China, but other places, you would actually assume that God is a man or some woman. And in India, we have like hundreds and hundreds of gods for everything that we need to accomplish. So there's gods to, if you want to study, if you want to excel in music, there's gods for that. So, and then we've also got the figure and the image of God, the idol of God. So it was very easy. That training was very easy for us. It got into our system, our psyche. And I want to suggest that once something gets embedded into your psyche, it is almost impossible to see it at that deep level because it happens so early. Even though we want to change something, it's almost impossible. So, because it's the strongest belief. So, the belief about our Creator or God probably is the fundamental belief. All
Mhm.
our thinking, our psyche, our behavior, our actions, our moods, everything stems from that belief. So
Mm-hmm.
we start to change our beliefs, but that's not possible. So in India, we can moderately change our behavior patterns, but the belief is almost impossible to change. So
Mm-hmm.
in India, we've got all these gods. We've also got a very strong ethics, a code of conduct, how to behave.
Mm-hmm.
So I think religion is about actually the behavior patterns, how what you should do, how you should behave. There's a conduct, not these days so much moral, but ethical conduct also.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then what happens is, and this just didn't happen in India. We actually see it throughout. We see it with the Romans. We see the god of agriculture. We see the god of love. We see the god of war. So very similar to our system. So
Mm-hmm.
in that system, it's very interesting, GV, that we learn to be subservient.
Mm-hmm.
We learn to be, it's a forced humbleness because the code of ethics is strong. If you don't follow those commandments, then somewhere along the line, you could be punished, or evil could come, or bad luck could come. So the superstitious nature, as we all have, because we have not fully developed, matured our
Mm-hmm.
psyche, is so we actually fall into that trap. That, and there's also a hierarchy system then. Nothing
Mm-hmm.
wrong with anything that I'm talking about. I'm just explaining the system and what goes with it. So if you're worshiping outside you, you will have fear. You
Mm-hmm.
will actually also have, you'll try and follow, even though you can't follow, then there's terrible shame and guilt when you don't follow the code of conduct. So there's a lot of side effects. Now, the problem is what happens when God changes. So somebody replaces their God with some other God. Now we cannot relate to that community at all. And in India, we've heard those are Radha Swamis, those are their son, those are their son. There's so many segments now. So
Mm-hmm.
the split is most natural because you actually are relating to something, an ideology outside of you. So
Mm-hmm.
this becomes now also when God, now that also is God is everything, God's absolute.
Mm-hmm.
So my question was then it doesn't matter whether you're a sinner or a saint. Yes, there is a code of conduct, but God is always there for you. So if
But
God can create, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say that my depiction of God is a mixed bag because I think God looks like you. I don't know if you ever watched The Little Mermaid, but I think
Yes.
God looks like her father,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I I think that he
Yeah.
sits on a throne. And
Yeah.
I if you ever watched Dharam Kshatriya on Netflix.
Yes.
Did you
Yes.
watch that?
Yes.
I always think that that's what in the back of my head. It's
Yeah.
almost like there is this dharam kshatriya that happens, and God sits on the throne,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that just like the record keeper,
Yeah.
Chitragupta, just as Chitragupta sits there with the scroll,
Yeah.
and I go in as passing away, and there's this whole conversation about GV. This is what you did good, and this is what you didn't do good.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
fascinating.
So, and actually, that warm, cozy, grandfatherly God who'll never
Mhm,
punish you, that's what we think,
mhm,
ultimate compassion. So, we are very clever beings. So,
mhm,
we devise all these behavior patterns and we can create them very easily. So,
mhm,
but my question was always that if God created you, then I'm the puppet. And, a lot of times we say, let destiny roll, it's not in your control. And in Hindi, jo hona hai, hoega hi, wo to,
mhm,
just keep doing your mantra, just keep doing the good thing, right?
mhm.
Uh, just
Yep.
do the right thing. We didn't know what the right thing was
Yeah.
because when times changed, whatever was right then became a bit wrong. Whatever was a bit wrong became a bit right. Like society is changing and the norms, behavior patterns keep evolving. And
Mhm,
so at one time, we've got the Shravan model where you have to, in India, where the youngsters would look after. They would sacrifice themselves to look after the elders. Now we've got elderly homes or we've got help for them more so because society has evolved. So when we actually get a God of a certain behavior and certain value system,
Mm-hmm.
then at some point we carry it through our lives. So also the separation really bothered me, Judy, that
Mm-hmm.
I would have to go to a older man, find the guy, first of all, hopefully he's present for me because he's too busy looking after millions of people, 7 billion people on the planet and many souls.
Yeah.
And as he created me, what if one day he decides and uncreates me? So he totally dooms the entire creation. And
Mm-hmm.
then where do both the sinner and the saint go? Like we all go to God. So it's not so bad. So then I think that what's the purpose of struggle? Why would we yearn for enlightenment? Why do we want to grow? If God is in charge, then I'm just a little dot, not
Mm-hmm.
even, right? A temporary dot
Yeah.
that will actually fade very quickly. So I can't find meaning in that for me. And that is not to say that I don't love the image that you have, and I've used that to relate, because this is the fairy tale, like a 5-year-old, 10-year-old image that
Yeah.
child or yeah,
Yeah, and it gives you a focal point, right? It's like
yeah.
God must look like this.
Yeah, yeah. But the fear doesn't go away. Somehow I feel that when people hang images and we have idols, then when are we? Its idea is that you've got this super deity, transcendent being, and it could be Christ, it could be
Mhm,
Buddha, whatever, Guru Nanak.
mhm,
Now, when do we become like that?
mhm.
We're just simply going for help, right?
Yeah.
So, and if you look at life stories, their life stories, they sacrificed a lot to get there. They did
Mhm.
certain things to be that. We're not doing that because we've accepted that these people are in place. Protection is 100%. I'll always be protected. So none of us really want to work that hard on ourselves.
So, Ruby, let's take a situation and let's dissect it just so that we get, because I would really like to. This is one thing. So I had throughout the journey, I've gone back and forth, right? There's times where I believe that I am creating, and I go about my life. And then there's times where I really have to sit back and say, wait a minute, something much larger was at play here that is beyond me. So, for example, I had, and you know this, but I just for the sake of our listeners, I want to give a foundation for the story. So I've spent 30 years in healthcare. I knew no other industry other than healthcare, and had never stepped foot until I took my 3 year sabbatical, right, to from my business to get into my business. So during that time, of course, while you were here, I received a call from my friend really late at night. It was like 9:30, 10 o'clock. And I remember you sitting on the couch with me, and I got the call, and he said, I'm really sorry to be bringing this up because you might be overqualified for this position, but I would really like you to consider this role. And he offered me a role at an executive level role within finance. So it's a finance industry. And of course, the tip of my mouth, I was just ready to say, no, are you kidding me? I don't know anything about finance. And you said, you were in the beside me, and you were saying, say yes, say yes, say yes. And so, just out of trust, out of you, I said yes. But I was so scared because I knew that I didn't know anything about finance. And now, it's been, believe it or not, it's going to be a year since that happened. And it has been, of course, the best choice that I could have made for myself in a career and a finance. Had you not been on the couch that day, I would have said, are you kidding me? No, I don't know anything about the industry. And I would not have even entertained it. So here's
Yeah.
the question. I've gone, I didn't, how did I create? How did, if you say I'm the creator, then how did I create a job in finance, which is completely contrary to anything I knew? Would that not be something that people say we Rab ne kita, or Allah ne kita, or whatever? Would you not say that that situation is that type of a situation?
Yeah, and this is, I'm going to get there now. This is actually a really good example. So, basically, we talked about the first model of how we relate to God. And just before I answer yours, I just want to bring up a couple of others that seems to be very predominant. We actually behave, and GV, one thing, we don't stick to one model. We actually sway. So
Okay.
it's very important to realize that in one moment I am the Father, I am the Holy Ghost, I
Mm-hmm.
am. And in 1 minute it could be something else, because we actually, the model is such, it's the modules are interwoven, interconnected, so we can, so there is another model actually which scientists follow, so call it the god of science, you know. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people follow that, and in this day and age also we are actually seeing more and more of that. So they are not going towards a personal deity to worship there. So the prayer, the worship is not coming that way. They've started to basically, and then they relate to nature. They want to save nature. They want to save the planet. They want to visit the other planets. So it's a very nature-based existence. They also believe in something,
Mm-hmm.
but they also have a code of conduct. They don't, it's the Greenpeace movement, it's many movements like that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
climate change, and all of these are coming from that. So there's a beautiful model that also actually is relating to nature as God, or the universe as God, right? The
Mm-hmm.
God of nature, God of universes, God of galaxies,
Mm-hmm.
God of all the worlds, cosmos.
Mm-hmm.
So that God is different, and how our behavior pattern, but there's no real staunch code of ethics except that you don't destroy the planet, you
Mm-hmm.
don't mess up nature, right? Because you come back again and again, future generations will have to be here. So their conduct code is preservation, sustenance, right? That's the model. Now, in that, we are open minded all the time. We don't just believe God is looking after me. And then if something goes wrong, God is punishing me, you
Mm-hmm.
know, or what happened. So, in that, it's open minded. We are exploring, we are growing with it, we are examining, we are actually moving towards embracing nature. And in that, it's quite interesting. But that model is very beautiful. So, unless you get into that certain state where you start to accept that human beings also are part of the nature and also a species that you need to embrace, a lot of people will start to preserve nature, do this, but they won't embrace human beings.
Mm-hmm.
First model also doesn't actually include all human beings. That's bullshit when people say you should love your neighbor, you should do that. We don't. We
Mm-hmm.
don't. We want to see, why would you always want to come first? Why is there so much competition? Somebody will have to come second. Why don't we, if you won a prize once, why don't you allow somebody else to take the prize, right? We want to be God's favorite. We
Mm-hmm.
never, we don't want to be second.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, these ideologies, but I want to just come to the third model and very quickly and then come back to you. So the third model is where it's quite brilliant too. It is I am. Whatever is, I am.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts with this destination in the self. It's the model of the self. So this, the path then would be, then behavior patterns would be, you watch your thought, you watch your mind, mindfulness, focus, determination, bold, you know, so you will actually try and come from inside first. You will develop the inside. So you have better ability to see the world, and then to be able to, if you need to correct it, at least you've corrected yourself. So you're a great model. In that model, you come to embrace humanity and nature very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Because the minute you realize what the self is, then you know that everything is the self. So
Mm-hmm.
when I help you, when I want to help the world, I'm not now in this model just looking to help you. I'm helping myself. I'm serving myself. In the process, you get helped.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I say I want to help you, then that ego comes in, right? I donated this money and I did this and I want to change the world. Well, you haven't even changed yourself. How will you change the world? You know?
Mm-hmm.
So all that actually in this model, slowly that ego sense dies slowly. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a very powerful transition, transformation, and it comes through. So we call it the spiritual model,
Mm-hmm.
spiritual transformation. And now the magical part about this is that you change one thing and then there's a whole effect where the entire system changes with that one thing. So if you make an internal change, it'll affect everything
Mhm.
on the outside, and you'll see the world differently. So we've got these three models, and most humans have been actually unconsciously swaying back
Mhm.
and forth.
Mhm.
Now, it's not to say one model is better than the other, because this is the path of evolution. You
Mhm.
will actually, at some point, experience all three models. And maybe there's some more, you'll also get
Mhm.
into those, right? But it saves you from all three. So swaying is natural. That's what I want to. So in your case, when you're sitting on that, obviously you can see that you can do finance also, because in
Mhm.
your financial world you had given it up and then not done so well for a while. So
Mhm.
at some level you didn't have that, and you
Mhm.
already had an ideology of how you want to make money. So
Mhm.
you were actually crossing everything that didn't fit what you had in mind,
Mhm.
right? Now,
Yeah.
I want to suggest something, and it needs to be examined. Otherwise, it's simply my word, and my word should not be taken. Everybody should
Mhm.
examine even my word. So, there is, when you have a deep religious belief, and we all have that, even when we become atheists, we have something, then we
Mhm.
convert. When we have that belief, we don't see that. All our beliefs are stemming from that, Jimmy. So
Mhm.
if you were to write down a note as to your relationship with God, how you see it, you will start to see why you behave the way you do with people. You want to punish them, you want to love them, sometimes you want to do this, and how quickly you change, because all our gods have different personalities. So
Mhm.
you're following actually the model of many gods and many thoughts and many systems inside you,
Mhm.
right? But also, when you do the examination, you get to see who is doing this examination, who
Mhm.
is doing it, right? When you come to the who part, you come to the self. So that integration of the self, without you, who is worshiping who?
Mhm.
you know and we
Mhm.
can't just have a scientific intellectual world. Also, we've seen many philosophers, we've seen many people who were brilliant and
Mhm.
actually lost their mind, because if you're only intellectual, then you seem to lose your mind, because there's too much going on in one area of the mind. So
Mhm.
as bright, I always think of that philosopher Nietzsche, and
Mhm.
he actually was very interesting. He said, as long as God is alive, man will not be free.
Mhm.
Second thing was, even if man is free, what would he do with what does he need to do with the freedom, right? So
Mhm.
there was actually way, but in the end, he too lost his mind and he went into the mental asylum. It's
Mhm.
quite interesting.
Mhm.
So and he didn't feel he was going anywhere, because now there was no God. So you see now why we need God also, because
Mhm.
at least some people believe we are going to the heaven. Okay, no matter how life was suffering, how bad it was, but at least we'll be in the hands of God
Mhm.
later,
ਇਹ
because everybody wants to live
ਇਹ
a good
ਆਸ
life.
ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਹੈ ਨੀ ਗੀ।
Hanji?
I said ਇਹ ਆਸ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਹੈ ਨੀ।
I bet तेरे को है अंदर से तेरे को है कि your position is guaranteed in heaven, and I bet it's reverse actually. So it's really interesting, with Nietzsche, when he died, the wife actually really dressed him up. और उसको कपड़े कुपड़े पहना के उसके funeral, everything was done really well. So one woman came and said, he always said he's going nowhere. So why is he so dressed when he's going nowhere? So, but anyways, so what I'm saying is that human mind somehow has not evolved. We're very complex, and we don't have that great role models to actually teach you that swaying is easy. You
Mhm.
can sway. You can actually, there's nothing wrong. Because if you follow the first model, you're going to have a big problem too. Because all of a sudden, then if you don't do that mantra, that kirtan, and the person who you're with doesn't do it, you have a problem. There's a hierarchy system. There has to be a hierarchy system. Your God has to be the best. And we see in our world how much conflict we have today. We
Mm-hmm.
use the same hierarchy system in our behavior pattern every day because that is the foundation of our that relationship. So we have not realized that our relationship to God or whatever we perceive it to be is now foundation of how we think and what we believe.
Hmm.
So the exciting part is we could get there.
Well, I'm gonna tell you a funny story. I have a relative in the hospital, and he's quite ill. He's elderly, and I went to visit him, and I said, "Have you eaten anything?" And he says, "No, no." He says, "I do din ho gaye main to kuch khada nahi because I'm going to die anyways. मैं क्या भी ऐमें खाना waste करना." And I started joking, and it's funny because it's the deep belief system, है ना? And I said to him, I said, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੁਝ ਖਾ ਲੈਣਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਮਰ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਉਦੋਂ ਵੀ ਸਫ਼ਰ ਲੰਬਾ ਆ ਉੱਥੇ ਭੁੱਖ ਲੱਗੂਗੀ.
What if nobody comes for you?
But okay, so I want to bring this back though to the let's talk about. I want to come back to the creator versus the outer creator, right? Like, so I want to that whole career situation with me stems a question, right? The question that stays is that if truly I was the creator and I am in the I am model, I'm connected with me, I'm connected with nature, I'm connected with the collective, and I know that I can manifest in that position. Why is it that if I wanted to manifest a $60 million lottery win, that I can't do that? Why is it that if I wanted to manifest a companion, that doesn't happen? Like, if I'm truly the manifester, could I not manifest the entire life that I want?
There's a huge difference. You're talking about two things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the creator, the creative spirit that actually will sustain itself through creating its reality. So, but you're talking about a very new model of success. Yeah, so somewhere you're talking about actually materialistic things, which is nothing wrong. But I would ask you the question, what will 16 million or whatever amount you want do? Okay, even if you need it, even if you need it, are your powers, are your self actualized, your state, your mind, your intelligence, uh, is it only going to do that? And what for? So I come back to Nietzsche that if you want freedom, what for? What are you good doing with it?
But
So if you
why
tell
does
me
that
that,
matter? Why does that matter? Appanuki, why does it matter? Why does the why matter? If I'm the creator, I can create anything. So why does the why matter then?
no, but that those are not the creative laws. So you have to study the laws then. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why if you follow that model, then you must realize yourself first. And then I would like to see this question. This is like somebody just reading that, oh, okay, this is what it is, definition of this on Wikipedia. And then saying, why can't I do this? So if you want to go into the I, if you truly believe I am, you feel it's your time and you want to get there, then you have to get into ask these questions deeper and deeper to yourself, because that's where it'll come. And that is basically self-actualization, where you go deeper, deeper, deeper into your questions that, okay, why do I need it? It's like Krishnamurti. Ask again a question, ask again a question. So once you've come to those, all these questions will be answered by you. But if you just read that this, I'm the manifester. So if I want to manifest 3 kids today, or I want to be the Virgin Mary and manifest Jesus, do you think I'm going to do it? It could be, maybe there's something wrong with my mind. So I think we need some reality check, and somewhere we've misunderstood the path of self realization. And I am. When
Mm-hmm.
I say I am the soul, okay, that means that my destiny basically is not pre written by any God or
Mm-hmm.
any man other than me,
Mm-hmm.
right? I may not remember it, but as I start to meditate, as I act, because there's no hierarchy system in this, that's the most beautiful part. right? But
Uh-huh.
as I go deeper, just within myself, I stay within myself.
Mhm.
And the unfolding of that is deep realizations, right? So when you come to that, you actually see your role. You see there's no real ethics because self actualization in itself is a model of service. Where
Mhm.
when I know that I am everything that is, I won't abuse nature. I'll promote science. I'll help the children. I won't let people get into blindness. So I'll try and save them from unawareness, nihilism. I'll save them from that too. Non caring, how people only want this
Mhm.
one thing. So, this, GV, this actually, your question, you probably need to go much deeper to actually see that does this question even arise then? Till
But
then, it will
okay,
not make
so
sense.
but if so, are we saying that the definition of the creator is not creating your life externally? The definition of the creator is creating the I am. Is that what we're saying?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Staying
So
in that. And
because
then as a result of that, because you impact, like you're also outside, you're not just inside. Skin doesn't hold me,
Mhm,
right? I am then the consciousness. So everything then in my environment will keep changing.
mhm,
And it'll change according to my level of realization because my vibrations may change, my frequency may change, and then my insight and wisdom may change,
mhm,
right? And my questions will change, my answers will change, my way of looking at things will change.
mhm.
So, whereas, see, we're used to the first model of worship and praying for things and bribing God. That's a very, and sacrifices. We sacrifice ourselves sometimes. People even sacrifice. Who was this guru recently in India a few years ago? Asaram. There were a few cases where human beings were sacrificed, and we've seen it in different times. So that model actually, somewhere, if you don't study the model, why is God outside you? My question is that the power that ideal has, you have it. So if you've been worshiping that God for a while, shouldn't you have transferred that intelligence and wisdom in you by now?
But do
Or,
we have
or
the
am I
capability?
going to say it?
But do we have the capability to transfer that wisdom? Like, are
Yes,
we ready?
absolutely.
Are we in a state of readiness
Yes.
to
See,
transfer?
another myth is that in human body, we can only express so much and contain so much, right?
Hmm.
So our organism can only hold so much. So actually, when we look at the gods, they did this, they did this, they did this, but I'm not sure because if you look at Guru Nanak, he was living a life like ours, very bound by time, getting shit from his society. People left his house. He very, very real lives like ours, right?
Mhm.
So actually, if you, but yet very strong realization of some power that was guiding him, and it doesn't matter what he called it. But when he started to bring equality and eradicate the caste system, those were signs that he was not into worship. Now, people start to worship him later, made him some deity or that figure. But he himself was just a beautiful, powerful, insightful, very beautiful religious experience, spiritual person who actually was just bringing balance and harmony to the world.
So, Ruby, are we saying that there is no such thing as an external source? Does
No,
nothing exist
there
out?
has to be, because there's no defining line between internal and external. There is no boundary. So what is outside is inside, inside is outside. So actually, there's no defining boundary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about I am, we don't see that boundary. But
Mm-hmm.
when we talk about the other model, we actually see the boundaries. We've
Mm-hmm.
even got words. We've got heaven, we've got hell, we've got swarg, we've got nark, we've got we've named dimensions differently.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're living as human beings, we've embodied all these dimensions.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, I think we're at time for today, but yeah, we'll look forward to what we're going to talk about next week.
Yeah, and if our audiences want us to explain more, go deeper, then we can absolutely do that. And I think the nice part about, I want to close with that whatever model you're following, do it, but recognize what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And just recognition, really. Be fully aware that if there is fear, then you know where it's coming from. Yeah. Then we shouldn't be talking about, I don't know why this happens, because it's in our thinking and behavior pattern that also creates fear. When we do certain things, then we will have effects of that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we create causes through our belief systems, and then fear is just an effect. And insecurity is, in effect, a complex, some kind of inferiority complex is because there's a hierarchy system. So you will feel actually low, higher than some, lower than some. So if you're following the model, all of this is fine. Yeah.
Ruby, actually, in closing, maybe just wrap up also with just closing my example that I gave about the healthcare to finance.
Yes, yes. So when you actually, at that time, you weren't basically looking at how you could make money or where your next stop of serving yourself and people would be.
Mm-hmm.
And but we all, I know you're a very big soul. You've shown that. We don't need to know. We know what you've done. Person is known by what they've done, what they do, not but who they are, right? Actually, so what they do defines who they are. So we've seen that. So we know that you needed this platform. You knew it, that you needed a very big platform. You've got a very big dream. And when this came in, it was, to me, it was the most obvious place to go. And another thing is that you've never really cared about money so much. So you've blown a lot of money. And somehow that faith that God is protecting you or somebody will protect you, and then you run into some trouble there. So I think this was very important for your self growth, for your self development to actually be self sufficient. And that's where this man got attracted and he called you despite he thought you were successfully doing what you were doing. And then I was just the mirror that do it. I was just the mirror sitting right there, seeing it clearly that, okay, this is it, do it. And when you followed it, you got in. It was so this is exactly what happens. The law of attraction actually will bring in situations according to your big dreams, your big goals, but we can't see it, Jivi. If we are caught in, that's how I want to do it.
Oh, I just
And the
got
black,
bumps. That's very interesting that you said that because I now just made that connection of I didn't manifest a financial job, but I manifested the milestone to my big dream.
absolutely,
Ah,
absolutely. And then very cleverly, you orchestrated for me to be there.
yeah, because you
Even me
paid extra
being
day.
at your home was on your invitation, and the call comes when I'm there. So you see how the self is operating within the self?
That's crazy. And
That is the soul. That's why I get excited about the soul work.
if I'm not mistaken, I think that was the trip you had extended your days on too.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So you see how your soul was already manifesting. But because you may not have done the soul work, you may have, your real belief lies the other way, that young girl is that comfy, cozy feeling. So somewhere along the line, you couldn't see that. So it would be very interesting for you to take 1 week and explore, and we'll come back to the no bullshit.
Yeah.
But now you can see how you manifested me, how you manifested the call,
Yes.
and how you actually learned everything within a short time about finance to get such a huge position,
Yeah.
mind blowing position. How you manifested it all. And now you can't tell me it was done outside of you. What do you say, GP? You got to
Yeah. You
tell
converted
me honestly.
converted me. But I have to say that before this, I was not thinking that. I was thinking it happened externally to me. But after
Yes,
you said just what you did
yes,
about the big dream, and
yes,
you just so now I'm now understanding better that level of
yes,
that the
great.
I was stuck in the manifestation of I didn't manifest
Yeah,
finance, but I
yeah.
did recognize I didn't manifest the big dream, which is interesting.
You did it. So the creator is here. So I would like to see what happens after this. We'll come back for a follow up. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Give us your feedback. We'll come back with a no bullshit. It's straight from the soul, straight from the heart, straight from the mouth. And we say it as we see it. So we'll see you guys soon. And Chivi, thank you again for inspiring and bringing out the best. Only I think you can do it somehow because
My
you know how to get into me. Okay, love you. Talk
Okay,
to you
good
soon.
night. Love
Yeah,
you. Bye.
bye.